It's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything.
Fight Club has a problem. Not with its storytelling, not with its performances. The problem isn't the movie. The problem is the people who watched it, saw Tyler Durden standing shirtless in that basement and thought, yep, that guy gets it. There's a certain type of viewer, let's just call them the wrong audience, who walked out of Fight Club thinking it was a blueprint, not a warning.
Can I be next?
They see Tyler as a prophet, a misunderstood genius, a guy who saw through the system and had the guts to do something about it. And in their minds, the film isn't about the dangers of unchecked masculinity, cult-like ideology and the hunger for destruction. No, to them, it's about liberation.
I found freedom. Losing all hope was freedom.
This didn't happen by accident. There's a reason Fight Club keeps getting twisted. And if you want to understand why, we need to start where it all began, with a book, a movie, and an audience that took the wrong lessons from both. Before it was a film, Fight Club was a novel. Chuck Palahniuk wrote in the mid-90s as a response to something painfully ordinary. A corporate job, a monotonous life, and a growing sense that the world was losing its soul. He saw men struggling with identity, buried under expectations they never agreed to.
I can't appear to be weak.
And so, he wrote a story about a guy who finds an escape, only to realise that escape is even worse than the trap he was running from. Then David Fincher got his hands on it. By the time the film came out in 1999, Fincher had already built a reputation for movies that didn't just show darkness, but dragged you into it. Seven had left audiences shaken.
You're looking for me.
Fincher knew how to make a movie feel like a downward spiral. And Fight Club, it was perfect for that. But here's the key difference. The book is openly satirical. It mocks Tyler's philosophy. It lays out in brutal detail just how empty his revolution really is. But the movie, well, the movie makes him look cool. And that's where things get messy. Because let's be honest, Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden is impossible to ignore. He's ripped, he's charismatic, he walks in a room and owns it. His speeches are delivered with conviction, his movements are sharp, and every frame of him feels designed to be iconic.
We're very, very pissed off.
Even the way he fights, reckless, brutal, grinning through the blood, it turns self-destruction into something seductive. And that's where the trouble starts. Because if you're not paying close attention, if you're just soaking in the energy of it all, you might start thinking, maybe Tyler has a point. And that's exactly what happened. When Fight Club hit theatres, it bombed, at first. The marketing made it look like a dumb action movie, and the studio had no idea how to sell it. But then something happened. It found an audience. Not just any audience. A very devoted one. Men latched onto it hard. It became a cult classic, but not in the way Fincher or Palahniuk intended. Online forums lit up with guys quoting Tyler like scripture. College dorms had the first rule of Fight Club posters on the wall. And suddenly, the film wasn't a critique of toxic masculinity. It was a manual. This wasn't just some fringe misunderstanding. It bled into mainstream culture. People started actual fight clubs. Some took Tyler's anti-consumerist rants as gospel, while conveniently ignoring that he was living rent-free in a mansion, stealing credit card data, and manipulating vulnerable men into literal terrorism. The irony? These fans were falling into the exact same trap as the narrator. They were buying into the illusion. Just like Edward Norton's character gets swept up in Tyler's ideology, these viewers let themselves be seduced by the vibe of the movie while missing its actual point. Tyler Durden is what happens when unchecked male frustration finds a leader who tells them exactly what they want to hear. He tells men to reject modern life entirely, to embrace violence, to destroy the system, but not to build something better, just to burn it all down. That's not enlightenment, that's nihilism with good branding. Tyler isn't just an idea anymore, he's a movement. Project Mayhem is in full swing and the men who bought into his ideology aren't questioning it. They're carrying out attacks, they're willing to die for him. Then in the final act of Fight Club, the narrator, trying and failing to undo the damage, he realises Tyler isn't the answer. He sees the destruction, the blind loyalty, the way men have given up their own thoughts just to follow his. And he knows, deep down, this was never about freedom, it was about control. So, he tries to take back control the only way he can, by killing Tyler. So he puts a gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger, and Tyler, he dies.
What's that smell?
because that's the only way this ends. You can't fight an idea like Tyler Durden, you can't debate him, outsmart him or argue until he backs down. You have to reject him completely. And yet, the damage is already done. The bombs go off, the skyline collapses, the narrator holds Marla's hand as the world crumbles. There's a certain type of audience member that watches this scene and thinks,
Hell yeah!
so why does this keep happening? Why do so many people watch Fight Club and come away with the exact opposite lesson? Simple answer, because they want to. It's easier to believe Tyler is a hero than to face the truth. It's more comforting to think masculinity is being oppressed than to admit that the real strength comes from vulnerability, not violence. And it's more fun to embrace anarchy when you don't have to think about what happens after the smoke clears. Fight Club feels empowering, but that's the trap. It lures you in, makes you feel the rush, gives you the fantasy of breaking free, before revealing that the fantasy is hollow. But some people don't stick around for that part. They see Tyler, they hear the speeches, and they turn the movie off before the consequences hit. And that's why, 25 years later, Fight Club still isn't safe from the wrong audience. Let's talk about who follows Tyler. The men who join aren't thugs or criminals, they're regular guys. Clerks, waiters, everyday Joes. And they're desperate for meaning. Tyler sees that. He knows exactly how to manipulate them. He doesn't ask them to fight, he dares them not to. And here's the genius of Fincher's direction. He makes us feel that pull. The rituals, the hazing, the way Tyler strips these men down until they're blank slates ready to be rewritten.
You're too old, fat man. Your tits are too big. Get the fuck off my porch.
It's terrifying because it's real. This is how radicalization happens. But let's zoom out for a second. No, not literally. Oh. Think about how many real-world groups operate on the same exact logic. They don't recruit with threats, they recruit with belonging. They say you're not alone, you've been lied to, but we see you, we'll make you strong again. Sound familiar? Because this is how extremist movements, conspiracy groups and toxic online communities pull people in. And it's no accident that Fight Club mirrors that process. Here's a question. Would Fight Club have hit the same if Tyler Durden had been played by, say, Steve Buscemi? No disrespect to Buscemi, but let's be real. He doesn't exactly have the aura, the presence, that effortless, dangerous charm. Brad Pitt, it's a different story. By the late 90s, Pitt was already a star. He'd done interviews with The Vampire, 12 Monkeys, Legend of the Fall. But Fight Club turned him into a cultural force. The abs, the cigarette, the way he somehow made blood and sweat look effortless. He made Tyler Durden cool. And that's the problem. Fincher's film, whether intentionally or not, made Tyler too appealing. It gave him the best lines, the best outfits, it shot him like a rock star. And no matter how many times the movie tells us he's dangerous, it never fully strips away that fantasy. Compare that to something like American Psycho. Patrick Bateman is just as compelling, but the film makes sure you never actually want to be him. The satire is overt, the horror is clear.
Hey, Paul!
Fight Club walks a trickier line. It wants you to be seduced so you understand the narrator's journey. But for some people, that seduction never wears off, and that's why we're still dealing with the fallout today. We live in a time where men's self-help gurus literally quote Tyler Durden in seminars, where YouTube channels market alpha male strategies based on his philosophy, where the worst people online still think Fight Club was for them. And honestly, it's exhausting. Let's take a step back. Forget Fight Club for a second, forget Tyler Durden. Let's talk about why men, especially young men, are so angry. Because that's what all this comes down to. Fight Club didn't create the frustration that made it popular. It tapped into something that was already boiling under the surface, something big. And if we're going to talk about why this movie got hijacked by the wrong audience, we have to talk about that. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of men feel lost. Not all, not most, but a specific kind of man. The one who sees the world shifting in ways he doesn't understand. Who feels like he's falling behind while everyone else moves forward. The guy who was told growing up that if he worked hard and played by the rules, things would work out. And then he got older and realised that's not how this works at all. Now, add in isolation, add in job insecurity, the rising cost of living, the feeling that modern life is becoming more digital and less human. Add in the fact that male friendships, real ones, are declining. That traditional ideas of masculinity are being challenged, but no one's offering a new blueprint for what it should be. So what happens? Some men start looking for answers, and if they don't find the right ones, they settle for the easiest ones. That's where Tyler Durden comes back into the frame. Because his message, it's simple, it's direct, it doesn't require self-reflection or nuance. It tells men what they want to hear, that their anger is justified, that the world screwed them over, that the answer isn't fixing themselves but burning everything else down. And when you feel like you're drowning, I can understand how that message feels like a life raft. It's why Fight Club didn't just resonate in 1999, it's still resonating today. Because the anger that made it so powerful, that anger never went away. And that's the real problem. When anger is the only thing you have left, it starts to feel like purpose, like clarity. But it's not. It's just directionless fire, burning everything it touches, including the person who's holding that match. That's why Fight Club keeps coming back, because the frustration it tapped into never got solved, only repackaged. And as long as men keep searching for meaning in all the wrong places, there will always be another Tyler Durden waiting for them. But on a serious note, if any of this hits close to home, you don't have to figure it out alone. My DMs are always open on TikTok at I'm Yorkie if you ever want to reach out. Or if that feels like a little too much, feel free to talk amongst yourselves in the comments. I'll be there too, ready to listen and offer support. And if you need something more, I'll be linking a men's crisis line in the description. There's always someone willing to listen. So where does that leave us? Fight Club is one of those movies that means different things to different people. To some it's a biting satire, to others it's a cautionary tale, and to a very loud, very misguided minority, it's a blueprint for life. And here's the hard truth. The wrong audience will always exist. They will always find ways to twist meaning to fit their worldview. They will always see Tyler as a hero. They will always ignore the ending. But that doesn't mean the rest of us after. Because the real lesson of Fight Club isn't about fists or explosions or rebelling against the system. It's about waking up before it's too late. It's about seeing the Tyler Durden in your own life, the charismatic leader, the toxic ideology, the seductive pull of destruction, and rejecting it. The problem was never the movie. The problem was always us. And that's why Fight Club wasn't meant for you.
We didn't make it for you.